So right now, what we're going to do is to actually create that 3D figure based on everything that's been discussed and shown in the video lectures. So let's start again with our figure that we saw at the top of this lecture, wherein we have our modified stick figure. Now, with this modified stick figure, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this in a way in our 3D volumes. So it's just a matter of thickening the figure however way you want. Now I'm going to do it this way. You can make your arms thicker, you can make them thinner, but it's advisable that you make them thick at this point so that things will be easier when you're doing the initial construction. Over here in the pelvic area, we don't want our legs to be too far apart, so we're just going to smooth that like so. And I'm just going to increase the size of the feet. Let's increase the size of the hands as well so that we can make things a little clearer when we do the demonstration. So this is our volumized, if you want to call it that, stick figure. I'm going to do it the same for the side. Now for the side view, you can do it in different ways. In the actual human figure, the back actually curves forward, and this is essentially what that curved figure looks like if we're doing something that's similar in real life, because the spine actually curves this way towards the middle back, and then the lower back over here down to the buttocks and slides down. However, if you're just starting out, you can always do it straight. I'm just going to bring this a little thicker over here in the midsection and bring it down over here. And I'm going to make the arms a little more relaxed like this. You can bring the body even this wide. It depends on the figure that you want to make, but for now, let's just stick with these proportions. So that's the first step. Now, like in any other drawing activity, the more you get used to something, the more that you've practiced on something, the more capable you will be in actually skipping steps. So if you decide not to pursue this and you want to eventually do it again, you're going to be starting from scratch. So like any other skill that you're building, the more times that you do something, the more that you practice, the better you get, and the higher the chances that you're going to be skipping steps and making full drawings more quickly. So for the body, this will be our pillow. It's right there. That's the pillow. For the arms and the legs, those are going to be our cylinders. For the head, that's going to be our sphere. And for the feet and the hands, it's basically the same thing that we showed you in a previous video. So first thing is, let's first construct that figure in isometric. We'll start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because our figure is 5 heads high, head. Follow the axis. The figure is facing this way. Follow the axis. This will be the axis of the shoulders and the axis of the pelvis. Then that's where the shoulder will be. Go down. This is the width of the pelvis. Then we go down, feet is here. Then I'm just going to outstretch these arms so that we have a clearer picture of what's going on. So this is now your modified stick figure in isometric. Now, given our the volumes that we've done in the drills, let's just fill in the blanks. This is a sphere. We want that sphere to look this way. So we're gonna bring that towards the middle, and then this way we're just going to establish that ellipse, and from the top right there. Neck is essentially a cylinder right there at the bottom, and then I'm just going to draw our pillow over here, round that part in the front of the torso, round here, flat in front, round here, flat in front. Then I'm just going to do these slots for the legs. Slide this going down. And slide this going down. One mistake that a lot of students do is when they reach this part, they would go like this and then add the legs. You have to smooth that out. And then here's where the arms are, and then the other side, the socket we don't see. We continue this line towards the side. I'm just going to enlarge that hand. And there we have our basic 3D figure. Now it looks like the arm, this arm is longer than this. So I'm just going to adjust that. No worries there. Erasers are our friend. Just going to bring that in. Now, the big question is, what do we do about the contours of the arm? So we have the contours of the body, the contours of the head. What about the contours of the arm? I'm now going to establish the contours that we're going to be needing. We need to establish where the elbow is, and to establish where the knees are. And then I'm going to bring one down above the foot and at the wrist. So this is the standard, at least that we'll be using here in MF Drawing 1. To demarcate the elbows, then the wrists, couple for the knees, and then just above the foot. So how do you know? You know that when it comes to a cylinder, we need to have that contour going around. So how do you know how to do this? Are you going to go more rounded this way, or are you going to go more flat? Now, the short of it is you have to make an educated guess. And the reason for that is you can actually do the whole, I'm just going to follow the, let's say for the knees, I'm going to follow the axis, round that in, and then, okay, so that's where the ellipse is going to be. And then I'm going to do the same here, and then I'm going to find that those axes again, and then that's where that ellipse, that's the shape of that contour. Now, of course, if I ask you to do that, that's going to be like too much of a pain. I mean, you can certainly do this. But the thing is, when it comes to figures like these, it's relatively easy because the arms, the body, they're all in 90 degrees. So that's relatively easy. What happens if the arm is like at an angle? Now, you know, that's going to be a little more tricky. So you can actually make an educated guess what kind of ellipse you're going to use. However, because it's an educated guess, that means you would have to go through the drills study the limb drill. Essentially, that's essentially that. You would need to train yourself to copy limbs from different angles based on the drill and see what the contours look like when the limb is facing in a certain direction. Okay, so that's building your visual library right there, so that when you pose your 3D figure and the arm or the leg goes in a certain direction that's not 90 degrees, then you can make an educated guess for that. So in this case, I'm going to do my educated guess on where those landmarks are for the knees. I'm just going to add for the feet. And there you have your 3D figure based on our armature that we volumized. Let's try, before we try another thing, now, again, with 3D drawing, what's great about 3D drawing is if you know the rules on how to set this up, you can now draw your 3D figure in another direction. So I'm just going to do that very quickly, just for demonstration purposes. I'm now having that figure look here, and we're essentially seeing underneath the feet. Hands. So since it's moving, the head is facing this way, so again, this sphere is based also on the educated guess. As long as you practice the head drill and as well as other references, you'll be able to get this. Let's now volumize everything else. Pillow, curve that on top, not too much, because you don't want the side view to look like this. You don't want your body to look like this. So it's just a smooth curve over here. Bring it down underneath. This is the side. This is underneath. We'll have our two lines over here. And by the way, this top line delineates the chest, and this line delineates just above the hips. Socket for that arm. Sockets for the legs. Smooth that out. Smooth this out again. Now don't worry if, like you can see here, I'm not really following what I did a while ago. That's perfectly fine, as long as it looks right. And now I'm going to do another educated guess as to how those ellipses for the knees, the feet, and the elbows will go. And again, the knees have to follow those axes. And now you have the 3D figure facing another direction, following essentially the same rules. So let's now try to do something else. Okay, so I'm going to do one of the examples that was done a while ago, which was the guy who was let's do this guy right here. There, let's do this guy. So I'm just going to lightly do that again. I'm going to do this in another direction. So let's say I want him to this time I want him to face this way, looking this way. So we're still seeing the front, but he's now facing this way, and we can see underneath the legs. So I'm just going to replicate what I did very quickly. So that has to be a little more forward until there. So that's where the knee is going to be. And then the feet has to be level with this. And there I have my feet. Parallel feet. Now his arms are not going horizontal, they're moving a bit back. So I'm going to estimate that, move that to the back a bit, and then that's where it goes horizontal. So that's the thing. I am reconstructing this based on memory. So that's another thing. So that's what we've been saying. If you've done it once and you know how to do it, you can replicate it more or less the same way in another angle. So with that, let's now add our volumes. So we'll start with the head, facing this way. So follow those axes. We see underneath the head. There you go. Then we're going to volumize this. Make sure that front is right there. So note that I'm not following the original line because this is volumized. There has to be some thickness there. So remember, when you're doing the armature is a reference. It's our reference for placement. It is not an exact place where you need to be like attaching things. It is a reference essentially. So you can go off just a bit as long as you're achieving the results you want. In this case, I want this to look like a full 3D figure. Socket. This goes back. For the body, curve side and then flat in front. Add our 2 slots. Curve this. And then from here, I'm not going the entire slot. I'm moving it forward because I'm following what I did, the armature for the leg. And then I need to see underneath the feet. And then for the other one, so I'm making another adjustment. I'm not following the armature too strictly if the final drawing looks off. So one of the mistakes I actually made here, if you noticed, is this line is not completely parallel with my axis. So in a way, this has to curve a little more down here to follow this. Actually, it's lower. So those are the things. You can make adjustments as you go. So educated guess. And educated guess right here. So since these are 2 lines, I'm going to go up top over here, and the other line goes on the bottom so that I could see that knee. And then we have the 2 ellipses for the ankles. So I'm just going to use those axes to align those feet. And there we have our 3D figure based on this in another direction. Then you can add the hair and the eyes. And then you can add the t-shirt. So when you're adding the costume, you're essentially just following those contours. So that's one reason why you would need those contours in the first place. One reason is so it gives you a guide if you want to add clothes to your figure. So I'm just going to clean this up. So I'm just showing you what it might look like once you're actually doing something for your MF Drawing 2, your animation course. Follow those contours. Shorts. Add a stripe at the side. Socks. And it's something like that. So that's one reason why you would need to place those contours. It's a guide for you to place other things. So the contours of the head, that's my guide where to place the features of the face. The contours of the body, that's where that's what I would use to guide me in placing clothes or accessories or whatever. I could actually use this now. For instance, I could place a belt, follow that 3D-ness of that body, and then here at the back, let's just add that giant sword in 3D. And of course, since you already know how to build 3D objects, you can actually do this. Just need to attach this belt towards here and then add that handle. And then we can add those clouds. And I don't know if she's actually flying or what, but you get the idea. Now, the other reason why you would need to add contours is to add shadows and shading, but that will be another set of videos in the future which are meant for self-study.